That's some good diabetes.
Cold opener for this one featured Hana commanding a spooky, scary skeleton. I guess someone still had the holiday blues and wanted to recreate the Nightmare Before Christmas. And speaking of monstrosities that could have only come out of the mind of Tim Burton.
Now you see, this is what happens when you don't get your millionth vaccination.
With both Majrika and Lala too sick to watch the witch baby, the Ojamajo decided it would be best to take their daughter with them to school and watch her and make sure she doesn't cause the apocalypse or something. And sure enough, the toddler caught everyone's attention, including Akatsuki and their classmates.
Same, Hana, same.
But yeah, they got a mostly positive reception, in particular from Itoko, who I thought for sure at first would end up being the spotlight character of this episode, after Doremi pointed out her motherly skills, but no, this is pretty much the last we'd see of her, and we'd actually get something much better. I also kind of thought that Reiko would end up taking the spotlight like she clearly wanted to. Anyway, they also needed to get permission from Seki to watch her, which I'm kind of surprised they didn't just go to see her first. Still, a quick and efficient diaper change managed to convince her to give them the okay. Though, y'all might want to break out the Clorox wipes on that desk, just saying. However, this did make her an easier target for Akatsuki, and asked for the remaining flat four. Yeah, it didn't take long before these guys start to suffer from some debilitating flatterization. Still, their leader managed to maintain some degree of professionalism as a toddler stature, and even tried to lure Hana out with, Usapion from the Fresh Precure movie.
Not today, not today.
Still on that note.
No, Boo. You first have to beat the game and then get the special item if you want the UFO ending.
Actually, she claimed that she was practicing for her next Cosmodome film that would feature aliens, which might be a reference to Godzilla 2000 that actually come out the week before this episode aired and featured this CGI abomination that thankfully at least turned into Orga. But I digress. The Godbaby antics continued with Akatsuki, next trying some milk, but was saved by the real protagonist of the show, Reika, who ended up taking the calcium-rich bullet for her. His next trap came during arts and crafts, where he did actually succeed in catching the toddler with a clay Majrika for all 3 seconds, before Gosmodon, ironically enough, did the save.
I am Reptar!
Though the best part of all of this was just the sheer cruel irony of Noboko legit seeing this fantastical moment, and yet no one believed the girl who had already cried wolf one too many times. However, Hana did end up causing some legit chaos like, unfortunately, any toddler would, speaking from first-hand experience here, so they were forced to leave her in the care of the principal. Akatsuki took notice and tried to kidnap her again after the principal left the room, but Hana quickly followed and would end up going off on her own.
Oh, don't worry, that's not a baby on the ledge, it's a ghost.
The principal then quickly informed the Ojamajo and Seki about losing her. Thus, the little witches decided to sneak out and look for their Godbaby while everyone else was still in class.
Interestingly enough, Doremi's grades would actually improve that day.
Hana would end up in the science room and of course found the skeleton from the cold opener. Oh god, Jack Skellington became a nudist. But yeah, a little needless to say at this point, but the comedy in this episode was just on point. Between the Godbaby constantly causing trouble, to even the Flat 4 acting like total simps towards their Ojamajo counterparts, it was a good time. I mean, granted, Fujio, being best boy, didn't actually do anything particularly over the top with Hazuki, but guys like Toru on the other hand...
Did that girl just go through all of her puberties at once?
Though he was quickly upstaged by Hana playing the role of the wig from Judgment, and Ompu trying to distract everyone. Meanwhile, worst boy Leon was quickly dealt with by Aiko.
You win.
Alright, credit where it's due. I actually wouldn't mind if that guy became the new announcer for Tekken 8.
However, this ended up unintentionally giving their leader the opening he needed to snatch Hana once again. Thus, running out of options, the Ojamajo decide to activate their pottering forms, and oh look, there's Oyaji. I wonder what's gonna happen next, aside from him reacquiring the bottom half of his body.
We've already done the Evil Dead trees enough, so, oh, I know, how about the Poltergeist trees? Yeah, never mind.
But yeah, of all the really good jokes in this one didn't quite land because we've already seen it more than enough at this point. No, well, it's a minor blemish on an already great comedy episode. And with that, the episode ended with the Flat Four regrouping and pretending like nothing had happened to them, which was technically true for Akatsuki, who ironically, in spite of being the hardest worker of his team, completely failed at all of his escapades, while his teammates, while goofing around, did at least manage to have productive days, so yeah, sucks to be you, dude. Meanwhile, the Ojamajo's class managed to take a photo with their new special guest.
This was a pretty simple, yet still really fun though outing.
Yeah, there was no big lesson of the day or any sort of plot progression at all, which you could argue was the biggest negative of this episode, along with the Flat Four kind of getting flanderized. However, I don't mind it too much with a more episodic series like this, so long as they can provide some legitimate laughs.
It also kind of helps that I'm kind of recovering from my New Year's celebration, so yeah, a bit more of an easier to edit video like this is appreciated.
Something I really appreciate about the comedy of the show is all the little touches they include, especially in regards to their visual gags. I didn't really bring it up, but some of the best jokes in this episode were the slightly out of focus bits, like Hazuki studying profusely in spite of the chaos going on around her, or the super smug face Hana made, knowing very well that she was going to make her mom clean up her poop. Credit for most of this should likely go to the episode director Hideki Hiroshima, who provided similar visual gags for his one episode of Smile Pretty Cure and other series across the franchise. Though, thankfully, he didn't go quite as over the top as he could have, which would have given us something like that. But yeah, all around, just a laugh riot of an episode, where even some of the antics of the Flat Four, who can annoy me, actually did come off as quite entertaining because they did suffer from some good slapstick. Though on that note, it did have the adverse side effect of just turning them into comedic relief rather than any sort of threat to the Ojamajo, especially when 75% of this team are acting like total simps. It is an issue that I do think is worth bringing up, but at least in my case, I don't really feel like criticizing it. Part of it was because I've kind of accepted not taking these guys too seriously, but more because you really don't need to take a series like this all that seriously. Sure, the heavier episodes are amazing in their own right, but if they want to do a more pure comedy episode like this, and do it really well in my opinion, then I see no reason to complain, not unless certain jokes are overused like the whole setup with the Oyashi misunderstanding and his defeat. That said, overall, this was one of the funniest episodes so far, so I can't say I didn't have a good time. Just sit back and enjoy, and don't think too much about how much of an actual pain it is to take a kid with you to work.
Here's hoping that everyone had some fun and safe New Year celebrations, and managed to recover from any sort of hangovers you might have had the next day.
For me, I did actually have a nice time with the family, even with the chaotic evil that is my niece. Though fortunately, it did also give me a little inspiration for a certain future video that we're working on about growing up in spite of the trials and tribulations that come with it.
So look forward to it. Until then though, farewell for now my friends, and excuse me.
Oh, hi Mr. Oak. Yeah, I guess you didn't appreciate those comments. Look, I wasn't talking about you or your family directly, so let's just take this outside and talk about it because you're kind of tracking mud with those roots.